The world is saved. The living room's dark, save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, George.
Hey, Lions, how's it going?
It's going good. We got a whole another year's worth of crap to talk about.
A whole nother year's worth of feces. I mean, what did you say?
No, we're good.
Okay.
So here's what we're doing. 2018 year in review retrospective 2000 Pro Plus edition.
Mm-hmm.
We probably need to workshop that a little bit.
No, that feels exactly the amount of verbosity that we want.
So here are the rough rules. So we only are covering games that we played in 2018, right? We're going to do bottom three and then a top three, and no Nostalgia Goggles games. Nostalgia Goggles gets its own little section, right?
Yeah.
So we just both picked one Nostalgia Goggles, but our game of the year or our worst game of the year is not allowed to be a Nostalgia Goggles.
Correct.
Right. So bottom three, Nostalgia, top three. So I'll kick us off. My third worst.
So the least worst.
The least worst.
Yes.
God, I hate this. my least worst, third worst for 2018, Gauntlet.
Okay.
And here's why I hated Gauntlet in hindsight. Because I had really fond memories of this game, and the later versions of this game are more like how I remembered this game, and that's what grated on me, right? Because I went back through time, and I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this, and then it's going to be like that, and then I sat down to play it, and I was like, it's none of that.
Oh, right. Because what you were thinking is you're like, oh man, it's like a video game, Dungeons and Dragons. It's not.
It's not. It's not even a little. And the game itself is actually pretty fine, right? So it's not that it was just utter garbage, because it's really not. It's that it's not what I remembered in a way that's so distant from what I remembered that I feel like an idiot, right? And that's, I mean, that's the central conceit of the show, right?
Yeah.
It's like it did not live up to my nostalgia
Right.
goggles.
And I always hate it when I feel the way that I am, you know? And
Right.
so- yeah. But no, I mean, I get that. I don't think that I played a lot of Gauntlet. I think I played it a little bit. So it doesn't like hold any high esteem in my mind. And I mean, the game was fine. It was innocuous, you know? But that being said, if you were like, oh my God, I remember, because what probably happened, if I had to guess, was that you played that game and then you no action for a while, and then you played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons with the best DM in the world. I mean, let's face it, you know, I mean, there are a lot of dungeon masters, but I mean, as far as
I don't really remember him.
I mean,
He was not remarkable in any way.
that's 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 fair, I guess. Anyways, so then you projected back upon that experience, you know, to where you were like, yeah, so obviously it was just like playing this tabletop version, but digital. It was awesome. And then you went back to playing and you're like, oh. So yeah, I could see that being a particular betrayal. You know?
What if you defined this game using terms that have become overloaded by modern history? Is like, oh, it's like a dungeon crawler, and you're like, oh, like Diablo. No, not like Diablo. It's like, oh, it's kind of got like a fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons sort of theme. Oh yeah, like a JRPG, like a Dungeons and Dragons, like a tabletop thing. No, more like an arcade game. It's got a lot more in common with like a Pac-Man or an Asteroids, and now those terms like dungeon crawler, right? Like those mean something, right? And they mean a lot of things that got cemented over years and years and years. But to go back to this and be like, oh, a dungeon crawler, and then to play it and be like, not a dungeon crawler. Not because at the time that wasn't true, but because it's no longer true.
Right.
And so going back and playing this, I was just like,
oh. Yeah, no, I can get and respect that. My third worst is and to be fair, I remember thinking really fondly about it when we were playing. Remember when we played Secret of Mana together? You remember that? Do you remember playing Secret of Mana together? Do you remember playing Secret of Mana together?
I remember playing that game with a tall, handsome gentleman.
Yeah.
Handsome.
Yeah.
Mostly I
that's-
remember his handsomeness.
So that, like that tall, handsome man has made my list. So, Secret of Mana is my third worst game because, as far as I'm concerned, through my own personal nostalgia goggles or nostalgia goggles, that game's the worst game ever because, I went back and looked at it. I looked at the cover art. I did the degree of playing of it. I actually did. And it's the worst. And anybody who plays it is a sociopath and a serial killer. And that is a complete list of people who have played that game, which is to say that if you have played that game, you are one of those two things. And I am not biased or wrong, and I stand by it. Number 2.
So number 2 for me, Battle Chess.
Ooh,
Yeah. And,
bummer. Hard bummer.
And here's my problem with Battle Chess. Battle Chess as a series and as a concept, rock solid. The NES Battle Chess, rock not solid. Because the ideas absolutely hold water, right? It's a good idea to take a familiar game, but then like jazz it up and like digitize it and all the stuff that goes along with that. But telling someone who's like, oh, I really enjoy chess, I would enjoy playing a more fantastical digital chess so that I can play against a computer opponent. Would you ever in your right mind recommend the NES Battle Chess? No, you would not.
There's a lot of NES games I wouldn't recommend, but
But that's what killed me about playing that game this year in 2018. Because it's there's nothing you could object to in what they were attempting to do, but the execution was probably okay at the time, but it has not held up at all. And the thing is, when you make a better Battle Chess, it's not like trying to make a better Super Mario Brothers game, right? Like the difference between Super Mario World and Super Mario 64 is galaxies apart. See, what I should have said was Super Mario World and Super Mario Odyssey are galaxies apart.
I thought you were going to say Super Mario, is that they are galaxies apart. It's an odyssey to get between the two.
See, that would have been more puns, but chronologically, Super Mario World and Super Mario Odyssey are a galaxy apart.
Wasn't the Ryu remake done more recently?
I don't know. Shut up. Anyway. but my point is, like, the things they're trying to do in Super Mario World are foundational ideas that they tried to expand upon in Super Mario Galaxy, Odyssey, Super Mario 64 even, right? Whereas when you make a better Battle Chess, it's a lot more like making a better Madden or a better Call of Duty, right? It's just take exactly what you did, but make the music better and the graphics better. And that's literally, and just slap a new number on it and ship it, right? Unless you're going to change the rules of chess, which you could do for like alternative modes. But unless you're going to change the rules of chess, Battle Chess 2018 would be exactly like Battle Chess from the NES era with better graphics and better music and maybe some other like UI improvements because that came out a horrible UI. But basically it would still be chess. And that's why I had to put this game where I did, because of the games we played this year, this one just feels like, would anyone ever get this recommendation from me ever? No, never, ever, ever.
Right. For me, my second worst, gotta go Battletoads. Yeah.
Is that why when I started Battle Chess, you were like,
"Aww." Yeah, no, Battletoads. It is, and I struggled with this because of like the categorizing. But I mean, as far as like, does it hold up? Yeah, it's exactly what you remember. The problem is that what I remember was a big steaming pile of poop. So yeah, I mean, it's obscenely difficult. It's the animations are, wildly enjoyable, and yeah, there's some charm to it. But I mean, ultimately, there is a third of the game. Like you get about a third of the game through it, and then the game says, and now you're done playing the game because there's a motorcycle level. And in case you got through that, you could go to a warp zone where it immediately puts you in the exact same mechanical challenge and almost as hard where it's the river level, So it's just like...
Which does feel like a middle finger from the developers.
It does.
Like, oh, you want to skip a big part of the game? Fine. You want to skip this specific challenge in the game? No.
Wiggity. No. So game over. But yeah, so honestly, from my seat, is it a fun game? No, like it's bad. It's not. It does not hold up in the sense that, like, you know, if you're like, oh man, I really like this game, it was really hard, I want to go back in time and play older, harder games. You do not. Don't do this. Let this live on as the seminal example. Excuse me, the pinnacle example, the paramount example of a punishing game. That is what this is, and you should not play it. Number one.
So, number one, 2018 games we played.
The worst.
The worst.
This is the worst of
Yes.
the worst.
This is the number one of the bottom three.
Right.
I think award ceremonies were not designed for this.
Probably not. This is like the Razzies. It won the Razzies.
Yes, it won the Razzies. Rampage.
Really?
Rampage.
All right.
Yeah. And the reason I picked Rampage as my worst of 2018 is because it's not fun.
Sure.
There's no challenge to the NES version, right? Because we played the NES version. We didn't
Right.
play the arcade version, or on, I think it might have also been ported to the Atari. We didn't play it there. The NES version is not fun. The NES version has no challenge. The NES version is not good to look at or fun to listen to. I don't know why anything about this. Like, this game literally only exists because it is a port of an arcade cabinet, but because it was designed originally as an arcade game and they brought over none of the penalties and none of the rewards, there's no game. There's nothing. You can just do nothing and accomplish the same with your life that you would if you played a bunch of NES Rampage. So to me, the worst thing about this game is that it is a non-game.
And I totally feel you on that. And I did wrestle with putting this in my lower tiers, you know. But to me, it was because it was so nothing that I didn't, you know, kind of put it on there, because I was like, this is not. If somebody said, hey, gun to your head, you're gonna have to play Rampage for 2 hours, I wouldn't be like, dude, pull the trigger. You know,
Just do it.
just end it. I don't want to do this. I mean, like, I could sit there and play Rampage for any period of time. It would just be a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, I can see, like, that. And I think that this. Yeah, sure. Let's get weird. So I think that this delves into our, like, deeper psychology, because, like, for you, if it is a waste of time in that nature, like, that in and of itself is grating. If I go into experience knowing that I'm wasting time, like, I can just deal with that. To be like, yeah, I'm just putting my mind in neutral. I'm doing a thing that is just a thing, you know?
I would agree with you if I have foreknowledge.
Right. That's fair.
Right, because what I sat down to do was play a video game, and what I ended up doing was nothing.
Yes.
And if I knew I was going to just stare at colored boxes moving on a screen where I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything, then I might say, like, oh, well, it's just a button mashing game. Like, it's just, you can't lose, you can't win, life is meaningless. Like, you stare at the colored lights on the screen and then you go to bed, right? Like, I don't think that's a good way to spend your life, but at least if I knew that's what I was getting into, then I would be able to judge it based on its ability to be that.
You get to watch numbers go higher.
Yes, which is that in spades, right? It's just boring and terrible and nothing in spades. But because I thought I was sitting down to play a challenging video game where if I was bad at it, I would be penalized, or if I was good at it, I would be rewarded. But those things don't happen. There are no rewards. There are no punishments. It is nothing. It is a non-game.
Yes, that is fair. For me, my number one worst, the paramount example, Echo the Dolphin.
So this does not completely surprise me, but I would like to hear your specific reasons.
God, I hated that game. I hated that game so much. I think in the episode itself, which everybody should go back and watch, it was recorded in 2018.
Yeah, all of the games are going to be linked in the show notes. So if you're too lazy to find it on the website, you literally...
Busy. It's pronounced busy.
If you're too busy to find it on the website... Thank you. English is like my fourth language.
Yeah.
If you're too busy to find it on the website, I've actually linked all of these episodes that we picked in the show notes, so you don't even have to go hunt them down.
Love it. Love everything about it. And I do know that Aramaic is your first language. And if anybody wants to get or understand that joke, you should watch the 2017 episode. all that being said, it's just it's plugs all the way down. Now, Echo the Dolphin. In the episode, and I stand by this, is I likened it because the reason why I played this game was because it was in the waiting room of my dentist.
I do remember
office.
this now.
And I said the only reason why I remembered it fondly was because it was preferable to being at the dentist. And I just stand by that, man. This game is just frustrating, and that's the main difference between, I think, our top two is that, or top one is that the two of our top one, whatever, math. So, but is it basically like you're saying, like, oh, this was a nothing game? It's like, I didn't deal with a nothing game. If somebody gun to my head, somebody said, I need you to play 5 hours of Echo the Dolphin, I'd be like, God, I've got kids. Okay, fine. Give me the controller. Like, I gotta do this, but I'd be doing it for the kids. Like, I wouldn't be playing it because it was preferable to a bullet in the brain. It is just, there's just nothing to this game. Literally the fondest memory I have of this game is the after credits, after music bump that we did on the episode. That is my fondest memory of this game. Otherwise, it is a frustrating, needless mess.
Yeah, yep, it is. Yeah.
Sweet. Number 3.
No, so we got to do our nostalgia game.
Yes.
So in 2018, we played a few nostalgia games, and we're just gonna pick one.
We didn't play a few.
We're just gonna pick one.
A couple.
We're just gonna pick our favorite.
Yeah.
Each year of the nostalgia games we played that year, because those are more random.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes there's a bunch, sometimes there's not, but like we're just gonna do the one. For me, my nostalgia pick is Celeste, because it's amazing.
I mean, it's mine too, so we just want to do it at the same time.
Yeah, let's just gush about
It's
it.
a great
Yeah.
game. It's a great game. It's a great game.
No, the visuals are delicious. The music is charming and wonderful.
The music's amazing. I have sought out the music on my own time. Like,
Yes.
I have a 45-minute commute into work, and I've spent a non-insubstantial full commutes into work listening to this music. The only frustrating part is that I can't get the way I'm listening to it to auto loop. So I can't make it just play that same song 4 times in a row. Was it Rush to the Summit or whatever?
Oh my god.
So good.
That is the nerd version of like Eye of the Tiger, right? Like that.
So good.
That song is like, I have seriously been feeling down and put that song on before, and I'm just like, oh man, Madeline did it. I can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it, and literally, right, because Madeline did it because I did it. Like, I overcame this mind-bogglingly, frustratingly horrible, god awful snap your switch in half challenge, and it's so good. Everything about that game is nearly perfectly crafted. There are a couple of really minor design choices where like certain content and story items are hidden in places challenge wise, or like enough off the beaten path that it's like, no, everyone should get this story, everyone should get this content. But those are exceptions, right?
Well, and here's the question, man. Did you 100% that game?
No.
There's more game if you want more game. And
Yes.
that's the amazing thing about it, is that, like, I completed the story. It was really satisfying. It was really amazing. And then it's like, hey man, you want some more game? And I started playing some more game, and I was like, oh, I don't want this more game. And like, and that didn't like taint. I was like, oh man, I've got to finish this and all this sort of stuff. Like, I have since gone back and played some of the original chapters. I mean, it's just it's modulated well, where it's just kind of like, literally, to me, from my seat, the game is near infinite, because there's as much game as you want to play. There's as much game until you hit a skill wall where you're like, yeah, I'm just going to go do something else for a while, But at no point do they shame you or anything like that. The game itself is frustrating but can be pushed through from somebody of like a standard games literacy. And then it's just kind of like, or are you on a scale 1 to 5? Where are you at? Are you at a 5? Then you can complete this game. You're 6. Here's this next challenge: a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10. An 11. Like, we've got game for you. We've got a non-stop amount of game. And also, for me personally, I love this game because it is one that, because of the nature of the game, Teddy can play it. My son can play it, right? So he can play it a little bit in the earlier levels because his game's literacy with his actual literacy is super low.
Well, and you have all the assist modes.
Yeah, all the assist modes to like dumb it down so it makes it easier. And then on top of all that, there's a special place in my heart for the fact that like there's a strawberry because he loves those strawberries. He loves getting them. He thinks that they're awesome, and he doesn't understand that they're challenge based, and it like it's 10 times harder to get the strawberry than it's just progress through the level. He doesn't understand any of that. All he understands is that his father is infallible and can do everything. So then, like, he'll be like, Dad, get the strawberry. And I'm looking at him like, oh, my God. Because the thing that the game does is it telegraphs what you need to do, right? So I know what I need to do. I'm like, I don't have the skill to do this. I'm like, do we have strawberries? He's like, yeah, we need the strawberries. I'm like, okay. So I'll start doing it and I'll die. And he goes, no, Dada, that one. And he'll point to it as though that was the miscommunication. Like, I'm sorry. Clearly, I misspoke. You're supposed to be getting that strawberry. Oh, that was the problem. So it's... yeah, it's just, it's amazing. There's so much depth to it. Visually stunning, auditorially stunning, gameplay stunning, 10s across the board.
Well, and the story, right?
Yes.
How many games have tried to grapple with what I will broadly call mental illness, right? And failed spectacularly. And I'm not saying this game, I'm not an expert in this, right? So I'm not saying that this game does everything right. There may be things about this that are glaringly wrong, but the main thing that I'm confident they got right is that the game designers wanted me to feel what she was feeling, and I done felt it. I felt it at the right times. I stopped feeling it when I was supposed to feel a different way, and then I felt that way instead.
Yes.
Like, that is a triumph of art design, period. If it's a book, if it's a movie, if it's a video game, if you can not only get your people on board for the ride, but get them to lean into the turns at the right time and to put their hands up at the right time and to woo at the right time, like, that's phenomenal, right?
Yes.
And the reason that analogy leapt to my mind as a roller coaster is because typically the only things that can make you do that are things where you literally can't do anything else. You're on rails, and this is not that. But you go along for the ride anyway, and you love every second of it.
No, the game is near perfectly crafted, and honestly, and you know, this is something that can never happen. But I would literally go to the developers and be like, you know, can we give our listeners a special code that if they plug it in, they get the game for $1 cheaper, and that dollar comes out of our pocket? Because I want more people to experience this game, get it and get good, and just experience it. It's fantastic.
Hey, Nostalgia Gogglers. I've cut out the part of the episode where George and I debate the contest rules right inside the podcast because it's not interesting. What is interesting is we are going to give away 5 real copies of the game to 5 real listeners. So all you have to do is go into the show notes and find the link to the Google form and then fill that out to get your entries. You have till the end of January 2020 to submit that form, and then we will select 5 real listeners the first week of February to give a copy of Celeste to. So go into the show notes, find that link, and enter for your chance to win a copy of Celeste. Now, back to the 2018 review. All right, so for the top 3, I think we can't really do this without kind of addressing the elephant in the room. Last year for 2017, everybody knew what number 1 was going to be, I think.
Yep.
And right now, start placing your bets on what number 1 is going to be, because I bet you can figure it out. But my 3rd best game for 2018, I had to go with SimCity.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah? All right.
And here's what I mean, you know, we played if you look at the games we played in 2017 versus the games that we played in 2018, like there's some weird, like,
there's a lot of weirdness, right? Like, I mean, I feel like that, you know, for 2017, we were getting our engines chugging, and we had like some amazing games and some really terrible games. There was a lot of, you know, like in 2017, there were a lot of 1s and a lot of 10s. In 2018, there were a lot of 3s and a lot of 7s, you know, where I was like, I don't know. It was harder.
It was harder. And the thing that made me happy when I realized SimCity was from this year and not from last year is I was like, oh, okay, I like SimCity kind of games. How did the Super Nintendo SimCity sort of hold up? And I was like, you know, I think I might actually play this game again in the future. I think if somebody asked me about a SimCity, I would have a hard time immediately saying, well, play the newest one, play the best one, right? Because kind of like what I said about Battle Chess, like, no, you should just always probably play whatever the latest Battle Chess is because it's still chess. Mm-hmm. SimCity, you would think at first blush, would have the same benefit of like, oh, just always play the newest SimCity. But in the later SimCities, like in SimCity 2000, 3000, SimCity 4, whatever came after that, SimCity XX, you end up having to manage things that you might not care about, like traffic patterns and water lines and policies for like garbage pickup. And if you like that, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying anybody who wants that level of minutia shouldn't jump into it, but it's hard to just go to someone who's like, oh, I kind of want to play a sim game, and just be like, do you want to play a sim game, or do you just want to actually manage a real digital city with all of the nonsense that it would involve to manage a real city, right? Like, it's the fidelity has gotten so high in the later Sim cities that for me personally, it just kind of lost some of the attraction. Whereas in SimCity for the Super Nintendo and then SimCity 2000, which I played on PC, like, that's about the right amount of fidelity where it's like, yeah, I'm building a city, but I don't have to like personally oversee every arrest to make sure that the mob isn't getting a foothold in the city and it's going to become Gotham. Like, that's just, that's more realistic, high fidelity than personally I want out of a sim game. So even though this doesn't have some of the coolness of SimCity 2000, the graphics are like really Super Nintendo, right? They're really rudimentary, and the music can start to get super grating, but you can just turn that off and listen to something else. I think I can genuinely recommend this game. And if I want to reach for a sim kind of game in the future, I think I'd probably consider at least the Super Nintendo SimCity.
Right. Yeah. You would definitely reach for Civilization 6. But no, I get that. I think that, you know, SimCity, yeah, at some point the sim game, SimCity, Sim whatever, you know, Sim 20XD6 or whatever it was, they became like mayor training programs, you know, where, and to be fair, I think anybody running for mayor should be subjected to some of these games.
Was it Last Starfighter that was like they were using the arcade system to find someone? It was a movie where it was like, you know, oh, this kid is the best in the world at this arcade game, so we're going to actually take him into space.
It was Ender's Game, dude.
No.
It was Ender's Game.
No, dude, I'm
it was
serious.
Ender's Game.
Dude,
I'm telling you this was Ender's Game. I'm telling you what you're telling me is Ender's Game. It's Ender's Game.
Okay, it's Ender's Game. But seriously, there is a game like this, or a movie like this called The Last Ender's Game.
It's called Ender's Game.
No, I'm sure it's not the Ender's Game movie because I hated that movie.
No, it's not the Ender's Game movie. It's the Ender's Game book, because they're playing a game. And then all of a sudden, it's spoilers. It's real.
Yeah, but the point is, SimCity games have become mayor training. Yeah.
So all this is true. So my number 3 for best games, number 3, Battle Chess.
Really?
Yep.
Yay.
Yeah. So when
I was so afraid it would take years for this to happen.
Yeah. So when you were like Battle Chess, I was like, oh, bummer. Go on.
We have different values.
Yeah, and honestly, though, I think that your assessment is correct. But again, this isn't about facts. This is about feelings. So for somebody of a younger literacy level, for somebody who's just learning chess, the less pomp and circumstance, the less flavor of the game, I think actually kind of helps, which is where I was at when I first played this and why I might give this to Teddy and say, like, hey, you know, I would obviously teach him how to play chess and be like, now here is a way for you to just play and interact with chess absent of me. Because I still, to this day, remember playing normal chess and taking the pieces and slamming them against each other like they did in the animations, you know?
That's not how you play normal chess.
Not how I play normal chess, but then again, I've seen you play chess. So just quick tangent, because we may have said it at the time, but we'll say it again in case you haven't seen the Battle Chess episode. You remember one of the first times we played chess?
Oh, yeah, that you did the Ronsky feint.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's like, you got 4 moves into a thing that will let you win in like 5 moves. And you're like, okay, clearly you don't know what I'm doing, so we're going to start over.
Yeah, so I said, I got like 4 moves into it. I was like 1 move away from checkmate, and I was just kind of like, do you see what's about to happen? And you're like, no. And I was like, okay, so here's what's about to happen. We're gonna reset. All this being true, but no, I mean that's kind of why it ranked higher for me, is because I think the additional pomp and circumstance can be distracting to somebody who is older, because then it's more of a video game and less of a chess tutorial. So to me, as far as like something where it's like that's what it is that I have taught you how to play chess. This is a way to drill chess in the same way that Math Blaster is the way to drill math.
Yeah.
So
what little kid doesn't want to drill chess?
Most, but they should. No, chess is like golf, man. It's one of those things that if you want to be, like at a certain thing, you at least need to know how to play it decently.
It's fair.
But anyways, all that being said, so you're wrong and I'm right. And number 2.
So my number 2 best for 2018, World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck.
Fair enough.
One of the longest game titles, I think, of any game we've played.
Yep.
It's pretty, it's charming, it's fun, it's got good music. They took a lot of platforming standard operating procedure and made it like Disney friendly without making it stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think on that episode you were the one who said that you like transform and disappear your enemies,
Yes.
right? You don't beat them to death, which is what you usually do in a platformer.
Like
You
in Home Alone 2.
Yeah, you crush them, you shoot them, you throw them off screen, whatever. In this, it's a far more, it's the villain falling into the bottomless black pit. Like, surely they die of something, because if it's actually a bottomless pit, they die of dehydration, right? But you don't get to see any of that. Yeah, because people always say you would die of hunger in a bottomless pit. But those people are stupid.
Yeah.
You die of dehydration first.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you fell with a bunch of water and you had enough time to die of hunger.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, none of that happens because it's a Disney game. And it's charming. I think when charming feels like the right word for me to use, it frustrates me that I then have no other good words to use, because there's just no other way I can look at Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and the adorable, lovingly crafted animations, the fairly well thought out levels, the pretty good balance of like challenge to, we will kind of push you to success because we assume if you're playing this, you're probably young or you're nostalgic for, Disney stuff. It's just really, really well done.
It's whimsical.
It's whimsical. It's lovely. I honestly wish every other like product placement marketing game could be half as good as this.
Oh, half. I'll easily take half. Yeah, man. Just 10%.
Yeah. So it survives on its merits, and then it gets an extra, pat on the back, because as a Disney game, they could have completely phoned it in, right?
Disney don't phone stuff in.
Oh, never.
Never.
Right? But I mean, like, a Mario game has to be a Mario game because that's what Mario games are, right? They are what they are. That is their entire claim to fame. Even though Mario has become a cultural icon in his own right, when Mickey leaves the silver screen and comes down to video game land, he has seen a lot of failures because people just assumed, oh, video games are easy. Yeah, we'll just slap Mickey Mouse coat of paint on it and everybody will love it. And no.
Suddenly it becomes Bendy and the Ink Machine.
Yes, right? That's what they're hoping, is that they're going to get like a classic everybody loves, but it becomes the evil Bendy, right? The one that murders you.
Yeah.
Not the idealized
That's actually
Bendy.
a weirdly deep metaphor, because they want it to become Bendy and the Ink Machine as a game, but it becomes Bendy and the Ink Machine in real life.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. So that's why I think I would say, if you stripped off the Disney coat of paint and you just put, generic characters that I'd never heard of and they were unique to this game, this would still be a fantastic, fun, charming platformer. But then when you also put on that thick layer of Disney paint, it's like, oh my God, this is a Disney thing, which I love. And holy crap, a good Disney game.
And I'm so glad we played that as opposed to the other one. What was the other one? It wasn't
Castle of
Yeah, that one's way worse. Way worse. So for me, number 2, Mega Man 6.
Yeah, Mega Man 6 came really close to inching out SimCity for me.
Yeah, Mega Man 6.
Edging out.
Yes. Yeah, it can be both. It could be edged out by inches. But no, it's good. It is, to me, it holds up, I mean, like, if you're, the only place where it struggles a little bit is there are some areas where you're like, oh yeah, and then this amazing thing happened, and you don't remember that it was against a black screen and the frame rate was reduced to nigh zero because the NES was just straining under the constraints of the hardware. But aside from that, and occasionally in levels where the cycle time and challenge spiked to a weird place, like in Plant Man.
But I think that literally happens maybe
in
twice.
Plant Man.
Well, Plant Man stage, and I think one of the Wily stages.
Yes.
But I mean, otherwise, the cycle time and the checkpoints are like straight up fair. They're legit.
Yeah. So I mean, aside from all that, the fact that you get to interact with Rush in a kind of new and interesting way where like Rush becomes like augmented armor. And again, this may be a little bit of my own personal bias, but that's what these episodes are for. I don't have to be, objective here. This is my world now. Is that I mean, I remember literally, when I was younger, taking cardboard boxes and crafting them into the Rush armor and then putting it on. I mean, it was just amazing. So I mean, the fact that they took Rush and they made it an augmentation of Mega Man, and that is actually very Japanese mythos, because and I don't know if this is something we've discussed, this is a slight tangent, but have we talked about the Japanese versus American mythos of the gun?
No.
So,
I mean, we've done a lot of other, like, the Japanese culture for humor, for this, or for whatever, is very different than how it's interpreted in America, but not over guns.
So the interesting thing is, the American mythos of the gun is that all you need is a man who is determined with a gun, right?
Yeah, the cowboy.
The cowboy, you have it in John McClane, you have it in all of these different areas where it's just kind of like, all you need is a man and a means.
Even John McClane, like, what's his signature phrase? Yippee-ki-yay, which is a cowboy thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all of that, right? However, do you see anything similar in Japanese mythos? Where do you see guns used in Japanese mythos?
They're either super futury, right, where it's like lasers, or when you do see guns, it's kind of satire against like Western culture. It's like a hyper violent, hyper stylized, hyper over the top.
Yes, and those are those ones. But when you see it in like their typical mythos, is you see it as an extension of the person, right? So they are either like, for example, take Vash the Stampede, right? He's not just a man with a gun. He is a man who the gun is an extension of himself.
Yes.
Look at the Gundams.
In fact, in that mythology, it is literally part of him.
Exactly.
Like in a not just like it's attached to Mega Man, but it's like magically, scientifically intertwined with his existence.
The same way with the Gundams. The
Right.
same way with all these other sort of things, because that goes back to the mastering of like the blade, right? Is the weapon is an extension of the person. It is not a means to an end. The thing that is being powerful is the human, and this is just simply an augmentation of that human.
See, I like that, because when you think of like the cowboy stereotype, it's like, I've got the bigger gun, or I'm, like I'm already drawn, and you're not fast enough, partner, right? Whereas when we're romanticizing it, but if that's not the point, what is?
Yeah.
But with what you're describing with the Japanese, likening it to the blade, is that this hero is powerful and their weapon happens to be a gun because it's science fiction or because they're a robot or whatever, but the weapon isn't powerful, right?
It's not the weapon,
if
it's
another
the person
had that weapon, they would not become powerful. The person wouldn't lose their power if they lost their weapon. They are powerful. The weapon is just their tool of choice.
Even if you look at like by extension, like Dragon Ball Z and Chi Blast, like those are ranged attacks, but it's their own ability to use it. So all that being said, is that having your companion become an extension of yourself, I think, is a solid extension of the Japanese mythos. And I made all that to make a very erudite claim for Mega Man 6 being my number 2.
Yeah. No, I will say I never did the cardboard boxing glove armor. What I did was anytime I tried, and often failed, anytime I tried to like jump onto a skateboard and roll, skateboard is not moving, and I like jump onto it and try and keep going. That's like how Mega Man jumps onto Rush.
Yep.
Right. That was my version of that. So I totally did that. I 100% feel you.
Yep.
I just didn't do the boxing glove armor.
So again, just so the audience remembers, we did not coordinate this ahead of time. We don't know what anybody's number 1 is. I mean, like, as you could see from our exchanges, there were definitely some prizes in there, but I get the feeling that, what was your number 1?
Super Mario Brothers 2. No, it was where do you draw your inspiration from, Lions? It was Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. It's got to be
Link to the Past, because, oh my God, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good, we did it twice.
So
what's to say, man? Go play this game.
There's nothing that we could gush that we haven't gushed before, but I'm going to gush some of it anyway.
Go for it.
We, for 2017, I recall when we recorded that episode ages ago.
18.
No, this is 2018. When we recorded the 2017 best of.
Oh, okay.
ages ago, because that was a whole year ago.
Yeah, it was
forever.
years ago.
We
I mean, it's as far in our past as 20XD6 is in our future.
That's right. I recall you saying like the thing that makes a game a nostalgic game is that it sets your calibration, right?
Yep.
And this sets my calibration not just specifically for, or not just generally for games from this era, but for Zelda games.
This is what a Zelda game is.
Yes. And I will be fair that Breath of the Wild has challenged that belief, but Link to the Past set the definition of what I thought a Zelda game should be. And then the Zelda games that followed it, I didn't always feel necessarily lived up to that. It's not that they were terrible games. It's just I didn't like the parts of the formula they were choosing to refine.
Correct.
Right? So the things that made A Link to the Past great, I felt like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, right? The Twilight Princess, right? The later games, like they left the same volume on a lot of levels, but then they turned up volume on levels that I was like, why'd you pick that one? Why is that the thing you accentuated? Right. And then with Breath of the Wild, they just went off in this totally other direction. And I don't know if we'll ever do an episode about that, but I kind of just want to replay that game anyway. But Link to the Past is a game that I have replayed it a bajillion times in my life. I will replay it a bajillion times in my life. Anyone who says like, oh yeah, I like action adventure games, like like top down RPGs, I'm like, then you want to play A Link to the Past.
Yes.
Because if you didn't play it when you were a kid and you didn't play it when they re-released it a bajillion times on every console Nintendo's ever made, like it's still worth playing. It is still worth going out and buying hardware just to play this game if you don't have any other way to play it. It's that good. All the things you think you like about Zelda, unless Breath of the Wild was your first Zelda game, then all of the things you think you like about Zelda are in this game and are arguably done the best in this game.
Yes. No, the exploration, like because the game unfolding over time, because to me, and let's see how this plays out. Breath of the Wild to me, like that's a top-down action RPG.
Yep.
Right. It has the degree of Metroidvania qualities that I am willing to tolerate. Right? Because there is backtracking.
Yes, which I think you have cleverly named unfolding.
Unfolding.
Yes.
It is.
So I like and enjoy backtracking. You like and enjoy unfolding.
Exactly. So even
similar but not.
Yeah, exactly. So even though these games both even though like this and like Metroid both have backtracking, like this game unfolds. So basically like when you're first thrown into it, you're thrown into like this world that's like crazy and different and and it's dark and it's raining and like then you slowly like get access to some of the world, but you can't get to some places. And then you explore and you, the player, become more knowledgeable and you are aware of more of the mechanics and you get more abilities and more of the world opens up until finally you really feel like you can explore it and you get all these weird secrets and these nooks and crannies and so delicious and so amazing. And then you go and you fight Aghanim and you realize you weren't done. You weren't even close because you were at best 50% because there's an entire new world for you to explore and that world interacts and interplays with the world that you were in. You thought you were a god amongst men, but instead you were a mere vessel, a mere plebeian who was petitioning to become an adult. Like this is a game that does unfolding at its finest. Every single thing that they give you implies new usage and new ways to interact with the world. You see the world differently as you evolve and play it. I mean, I even remember, and this is one of those things that was so impactful on me, where like when we were replaying it, you said something like thing X, and I said, well, obviously you need to go get this other thing first, whatever it was, and you remembered it, but it's that level of detail where all of a sudden you come into a room where there's just spikes nonstop. So you can either just be like, well, I've got enough health, I'll just blaze through it, or it's like, or do you have the magic cape that makes you invisible?
Because being invisible also makes you immortal for some reason.
Yeah, does it not for you? Oh no, I said too much.
But no, it's the gushing could be endless. The gushing was so endless that this is the one and only time we ever broke an episode into two parts.
Yes.
And just for funsies, we do actually have the entire episode in one huge, like 3-hour recording. And that one is not discoverable on the website or in the RSS feed, but I will link it in the show notes for this episode.
Like a secret, like in Legend of Zelda?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you want to open the chest and get the big key and go into the boss door and tackle the 3.5 hour episode that was us endlessly gushing about A Link to the Past, this is the way to get there.
Yes, absolutely. So
I think the last thing I'll ask people to do, because we've gushed and crapped on games that we already gushed and crapped on enough for now. If anybody wants to reach out, website, Twitter, go outside your house, whatever your ideal contact method is. I want to hear if people outright agree, outright disagree. If there's something that you're like absolutely furious that we left off and you're like, how was this game from 2018 not in your top or bottom, right? Like I genuinely want to hear that stuff because we have our feelings, but I wonder how these nostalgia experiences that we've shared have sort of impacted people. So share it. Tell us.
Absolutely. Because there have definitely been games where we've been, kind of lukewarm or whatever about it. And then all of a sudden it is the most viewed game of all games. And we're like, but why though? So enlightening us to that would be amazing. And especially now because having that additional knowledge would be an amazing link to our past.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black, and you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone, there's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again